My dad's birthday dinner was supposed to be a celebration. We'd reserved the back room at Carmine's, the Italian place on Fifth that my parents love, the one with the red checkered tablecloths and the candles stuffed into old wine bottles. My mom had been planning it for weeks. She'd called me 3 times about the cake alone. I drove 40 minutes in Friday traffic to get there. I brought a card I'd spent 20 minutes picking out, and a bottle of Barolo I couldn't really afford because my dad likes nice wine and I wanted to do something right. I wore the green dress. I was in a good mood. I should have known better. We were maybe 20 minutes in, bread on the table, drinks just arrived, when my mom stood up. Not to make a toast, not to say something sweet about my dad turning 62. She stood up and smoothed her blouse, the way she does when she's about to say something she's already decided can't be argued with. And she looked at me, and she said, "I've been thinking about this for a while, and I want to get it out in the open. Your sister is really struggling right now. She's got 2 kids and no real income, and the apartment situation isn't going to fix itself. We think it makes the most sense for you to cover her rent for a while. You're doing well, she's not. That's just the reality." The table went quiet. My dad didn't look at me. He was looking at his water glass, turning it slowly by the stem. I said, "I'm sorry." "What?" My mom sat back down. "It's not permanent, just until she gets back on her feet." I looked at my sister, who was sitting across from me. She didn't look surprised. She'd known this was coming. She was looking at her bread plate like it was the most interesting thing in the room. "Nobody asked me about this," I said. "We're asking you now," my mom said. My dad finally looked up. "We just need you to be a team player here. Family takes care of family." I thought about a lot of things in that moment. I thought about the $6,200 I'd already given my sister over the past 2 years, in chunks, whenever she'd called, whenever something came up. The car repair that wasn't really a repair. The security deposit for the apartment she was now apparently unable to pay rent on. The month I'd covered her electric bill and her grocery run because she said she was between jobs. And then, 2 weeks later, she'd posted pictures from a weekend trip to the shore with someone I didn't recognize. I hadn't told anyone about any of that. I'd done it quietly because that's what I thought family was supposed to do. And now I was sitting at a birthday dinner being told to do more, publicly. Like it was already decided. "What about child support?" I asked. "Her ex is still in the picture. Has she filed for child support?" "That's complicated," my mom said. "It's really not," I said. "You file, they calculate based on income, you receive payments, that's how it works. He's not reliable. Then you go through the court. That's literally what the system is for." My sister finally spoke. "I don't want to make things harder with him right now. It's not a good time." "It's not a good time for me either," I said. "I'm paying off my own student loans. I have rent. I have a car payment. I have a 401k I'm barely contributing to because I've been helping you every time you call." Nobody said anything. Then my dad set down his wine glass and said, "We're not asking you to be perfect about it. We're asking you to show up for your sister." I looked at him for a long moment. "I've been showing up," I said. "I just haven't been announcing it." He didn't know what to do with that. Neither did my mom. I picked up my purse. I put my napkin on the table. I thought about saying something else, something clean and final. But in the end, I just said, "I hope dinner is good. Happy birthday, Dad," and I walked out. I left the Barolo on the table. It had cost me $68. I thought about going back for it. I didn't. The drive home was one of those drives where you don't really remember making it. I got into my apartment, sat on the couch with my coat still on, and stared at the wall for a while. My phone started going almost immediately. "My mom, that was very dramatic." "My mom, your sister is really hurt." "My mom, call me when you're ready to be reasonable." I put my phone face down on the coffee table and didn't pick it up again that night. What I didn't say at dinner, what I hadn't told anyone, not my parents, not my sister, not my best friend Trisha, who knew more about my life than almost anyone, was that 3 months before that night I had quietly stopped. Not loudly, not with an announcement or a conversation or a boundary-setting talk I'd read about online. I just stopped responding when my sister texted asking if I could spot her something. I stopped answering the calls that came in at odd hours with that particular tone in her voice. I was already pulling back. I had been for a while. But I hadn't stopped completely, and that's the part I'm still a little embarrassed about. Even after I'd made the decision in my head, this is not sustainable, I cannot keep doing this. I still Venmoed her $60 in October because she said my nephew's school was doing a fall fundraiser and she was short. I told myself it was for my nephew, not for her. Maybe that was true, but I sent it. And the month before the birthday dinner, when she texted me at 11 p.m. saying the heat had gone out and the landlord wasn't responding and it was 40 degrees and the kids were cold, I called the emergency maintenance line myself and paid the $150 service fee to get someone out there that night. She thanked me. She said I was the only person who ever came through for her. I didn't tell my parents any of that either. I don't know why. Maybe because I didn't want to seem like I was keeping score. Maybe because I'd convinced myself that doing it quietly made it more virtuous somehow, less transactional, more just help. What I know now is that doing it quietly also meant nobody knew, which meant nobody thought I was already helping, which meant my mom could stand up at a birthday dinner and tell me I needed to step up, and the rest of the table could look at me like I was the selfish one. That part stung more than anything else. The thing about my sister is that she's not a bad person. I want to be clear about that, because I'm aware of how this sounds. She's not villainous. She's not calculating. She's always been the one who falls, and somewhere along the way, the rest of us learned to catch her. And nobody ever stopped to ask whether that was actually helping. She got married young. 24, to a guy my parents loved and I had serious reservations about. Reservations I kept mostly to myself because it wasn't my life. They had 2 kids in 3 years. Then things fell apart. Not dramatically, not with one big blow-up, but slowly, the way things do when 2 people stop trying at the same time. They separated when my younger nephew was 18 months old. She didn't file for divorce right away. She didn't file for child support right away either. I asked her about it once, gently, and she said she didn't want to make things adversarial. She wanted to try to co-parent peacefully. I understood that. I respected it. But her ex, I'll call him what he is, which is a guy who showed up inconsistently and contributed less. He wasn't co-parenting. He was showing up when it was convenient and disappearing when it wasn't. He'd take the boys for a weekend and then cancel the next 3. He wasn't sending money reliably. He wasn't showing up reliably. And my sister kept protecting him from consequences because she said it was better for the kids. I don't know if that's true. What I know is that it meant she was trying to raise 2 kids essentially on her own, on a part-time income from a job she'd taken because the hours fit around school pickup, and that part-time income wasn't covering what she needed it to cover. And so she called me, and I helped, and then I kept helping. And at some point, helping became expected, and then it became assumed, and then it became something my mother felt comfortable announcing at a restaurant in front of 7 people like it was a line item in a budget. I didn't call my mom back that weekend. I didn't call my sister either. On Saturday, I went to the farmer's market by myself and bought a bunch of flowers I didn't need, and walked around for 2 hours without looking at my phone. On Sunday, I cleaned my apartment and did laundry and made a big pot of soup that lasted me 4 days. It was the quietest weekend I'd had in months. Monday morning, I got a text from my dad. Not my mom, my dad, which was more unusual. He's not a big texter. He still types with 2 fingers. I know that wasn't easy to hear. I hope you'll think about it. I read it twice. Then I put my phone in my bag and went to work. I work in healthcare administration. I spend a lot of time looking at numbers, budgets, staffing ratios, reimbursement rates, the gap between what care costs and what we get paid for it. I am very familiar with the experience of being asked to do more with less and told it's for a good cause. I thought about that a little on Monday. My friend Trisha met me for lunch that week. We've been friends since college, the kind of friendship where you can say the actual thing without preamble. I told her the whole story. She listened without interrupting, which is one of the things I love about her. When I was done, she said, "So what are you going to do?" "Nothing," I said. "I'm not going to do anything. You're not going to respond? I'm not going to start paying my sister's rent. That's what I'm not going to do." She nodded slowly. "What about everything you already paid?" "That's gone," I said. "I know that's gone. I've made peace with that. I hadn't fully made peace with it, but I was working on it." 2.5 weeks after the dinner, my sister called me. I let it go to voicemail. She left a message, 3.5 minutes long, which I know because I checked before I decided whether to listen to it. I let it sit for a day, then I listened. She didn't apologize for the dinner. She didn't address the setup, or the fact that she'd known it was coming and hadn't warned me, or the fact that our parents had essentially made a financial decision about my life without consulting me. She talked about how hard things were. She talked about how lonely it was, doing this alone. She said she felt like I'd abandoned her when she needed me most. There was a part, about 2 minutes in, where her voice broke a little and she said, "I just don't understand what I did to make you stop caring about me." I sat with that for a long time. Here's what I wanted to say. I didn't stop caring about you. I stopped financing a situation that nobody is trying to change. Here's what I actually did. I didn't call back. I thought about my nephew sitting in school with his lunch paid for, and the other one with his little backpack, and I felt the guilt of that like something physical. That part is real. That part doesn't go away just because you understand why the boundary is necessary. But I also thought about the weekend trip to the shore. I thought about the guy she was apparently seeing. Someone she'd mentioned once in passing, then stopped mentioning. And the fact that she'd told me she was completely tapped out the same month she'd bought new living room furniture, which I saw in a photo she posted and didn't comment on. I thought about all the times I'd answered. And I thought about what would happen if I kept answering. She would never file for child support. She would never look seriously for a full-time job. Not because she couldn't, but because there was always a reason not to. The boys needed her. The hours were wrong. The commute was too far. The pay wasn't worth the childcare cost. Every reason was real. Every reason was also a wall she was choosing not to climb. And as long as I was there to catch her, there was no urgency to climb. My mom called on a Thursday evening about a month after the dinner. I picked up. I'm not sure why. Maybe because I was tired of avoiding it. Maybe because I knew it had to happen eventually. She was calmer than I expected. She didn't open with a guilt trip. "I want to understand your perspective," she said. I said, "Okay." She said she knew things at dinner had come out wrong. She said she should have talked to me privately first. She said she was worried about my sister and the boys, and she and my dad couldn't do more than they already were. They were both retired, fixed income, helping where they could. "I know," I said. "I'm not angry at you for being worried, but you're still not going to help." "I've been helping," I said, "for 2 years, quietly, over $6,000. She went very still on the phone. I could hear her breathing. "I didn't know that," she said. "I know you didn't. Why didn't you tell us?" "Because I didn't want it to be a thing," I said. "I just wanted to help her. But I can't keep helping in a way that makes it possible for her to not make changes. She needs to file for child support. She needs to look at what working more hours would actually make possible. She needs to do something, and she can't do something as long as there's always a backup." My mom was quiet for a moment. "She has tried," she said. "You don't see how hard she's trying." "I believe you that she's trying," I said. "I also think trying means filing the paperwork. Trying means calling the county child support office and starting the process. Trying means doing the thing that's hard and uncomfortable, not just surviving until the next call." We didn't end the call in agreement. We didn't end it in a fight either. We ended it somewhere in the middle, which felt like the most honest place for it to land. It's been about 5 months since the birthday dinner. My sister did, eventually, file for child support. I don't know exactly what prompted it. My mom told me in a roundabout way that it happened without offering details. I assume it was a combination of things. I assume running out of options is one of them. Her ex is now required by court order to pay $740 a month. It's not a lot, but it's not nothing, and it's consistent, which is more than anything before it was. I found that out from my mom, too. My sister got a full-time position at the medical practice she'd been working part-time at. Benefits. Regular hours. She had to arrange after-school care for the boys, which she said was a whole thing. I imagine it was. I haven't given her any money since the dinner. I've seen her twice. Once at my parents' house for Easter, once at my older nephew's birthday party in April. Both times were fine, not warm, not cold, just careful. She didn't ask me for anything. I didn't offer anything. She's doing something different now with her social media. Less of the vague posting, fewer quotes about fake people and betrayal. She posted a video of the boys in the backyard last week, just the two of them running through a sprinkler and screaming their heads off, and I watched it 3 times. I didn't comment, but I watched it 3 times. There's a version of this story where I'm the villain, the sister who pulled back when things got hard, who did a cold calculation and decided it wasn't worth it anymore. I know that version exists. I know some people reading this will see it that way. But here's what I know. I was already helping. I helped for 2 years without anyone knowing because I believed in her and I loved her kids, and I thought that's what you do. What I couldn't keep doing was helping in a way that removed every incentive to change. Sometimes the most loving thing and the hardest thing are the same thing. I drove to my parents' house last Sunday. Not for any particular reason, just because the weather was nice and I wanted to see them. My mom made coffee. My dad fell asleep in his chair during the game, which is his default setting on Sunday afternoons. I sat on the back porch for a while with my coffee and listened to the neighbor's wind chime doing its thing. It was quiet. Not a heavy quiet, just quiet. I didn't have my phone out. I didn't owe anyone a response. I wasn't running numbers in the back of my head or waiting for a call I'd feel guilty ignoring. I just sat there. That's what I'd been missing, I think. Not the drama of any of it, not the dinner or the fallout or the hard conversations, just the absence of the weight I'd been carrying so long I'd stopped noticing it was there.